Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. What a trouncing the Chastany-led UWP administration took at the polls, representing a total rejection by St. Lucians. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 28th July 2021. Details when we return.
Hubbard's big promotion is back. Live free for 1 year. Spend $50 or more in any Hubbard's department and receive a chance to win big prizes every month. Property or vehicle insurance for 1 year. Free internet, cable and data for 1 year. Free fuel for 1 year. Free cooking gas for 1 year. Free electricity for 1 year. Free drinks for 1 year. Extra cash account and the big free groceries for 1 year. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2021. Live free for 1 year with Hubbard's in association with Solgas, Flow, Grenadian General Insurance, Carib Brewery, Coca-Cola, Grenada Bottling Company, Grenlec, Communal Cooperative Credit Union, Dutch Lady Milk, Promo, Danny and Supreme. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Outgoing Prime Minister Alan Chastany comfortably won his Micoud South seat in Monday's general election, but his ruling United Workers' Party, UWP, relinquished the government after a 5-year term. Chastany polled 2,204 votes as against 1,334 for Gideon Ferdinand of the main opposition St. Lucia Labour Party. The SLP, which was trounced 11-6 in the 2016 general election, may very well confirm a landslide victory when the preliminary results are confirmed. Former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony was among the successful candidates declared early. Independent candidate Richard Frederick defeated the incumbent Foreign Affairs Minister Sarah Flood Bobran in Castries' central seat. In the Castries North constituency, another independent candidate, Stephenson King, a former Prime Minister and a former leader of the UWP, who earlier served in the outgoing UWP administration, won the seat he has been representing in Parliament for nearly 3 decades handsomely. In the Bourbonneau constituency, Ezekiel Joseph, the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Natural Resources and Cooperatives, lost to newcomer Dr. Virginia Albert Poyet by a margin of 3,200 to 3,180 votes. Barbados' social partners have met with topics of vaccination and testing at the top of the agenda. More from Barbados Today news item.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley spoke about the pending talks at Monday's celebrations to mark the Day of National Significance. Prime Minister Mottley maintained that difficult discussions will need to take place as Barbados navigates through uncharted territory.
But we also have to have some serious discussions with ourselves, because the talk about vaccinations is not about mandatory or otherwise. We have already said that there will be vaccinations or testing. And we go tomorrow to the social partnership to start that discussion. But we also have to recognize, as the Attorney General reminds me, and I have reminded him too as a former lawyer in criminal practice in this country, that regrettably, people are also exposed if they know better and fail to do better. And that is what makes the conversation complex. If not, it would be a straightforward conversation. Because do you have the right to work in close proximity to someone who you know is acutely vulnerable and pass on to them recklessly a virus that is responsible for taking their life? These are complex issues. And more, if this government does nothing else, I hope that it creates the spirit of tolerance, the spirit of discussion, and the spirit of wanting to find consensus where possible, but being prepared to lead where not possible.
Meanwhile, taxi drivers who are charged with transporting visitors from the various ports of entry to quarantine centers are being sternly warned against breaching the country's protocols.
Deputy Director of the COVID-19 Monitoring Unit, Alison Elcock, revealed that the unit has been receiving reports of some operators making stops at businesses prior to the visitors' quarantine drop-off.
Any protocol can only be effective if there's compliance with it. And we have received reports of some situations where drivers may not necessarily conform to all of the instructions. And one critical area is when you're transporting quarantine guests who have to quarantine, that they go directly from the arrival location, whether that's the seaport or the airport, directly to the quarantine facility. There's a tendency to, in some cases, we've received reports where persons may stop at the bank or the supermarket or the pharmacy. You know, people just land down in Barbados, may want to have Banks beer and you know, whatever beverages, etc., to enjoy themselves when they're in quarantine. And it is important that those stops not be made. And that's one of the areas that we want to reinforce today, that when quarantine guests are being transported, that it is a non-stop express trip to their quarantine facility. The time will be there after quarantine for them to be able to benefit from all of the experience in Barbados. And then there are other systems in place. The property managers of the facilities where persons are staying will ensure that they have access to those things. So it's not the role of the driver to facilitate those requests.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Still on Barbados, nationals seem to have mixed views as to whether or not unvaccinated workers in the private sector should have to pay for their COVID-19 tests.
Following a heated debate on social media over the weekend regarding employees paying for tests to prove their COVID-19 status if they have not taken the vaccine, Barbados today took to the streets to get the public's view. Here is what they had to say.
I believe that there's a combination of both. In other words, there are certain workers who should be taking the vaccine, the vaccine at certain levels, and then there's the option for the other levels of people to be able to take regular testing when it is available.
When you look at it, if you're working somewhere and you're going there 7 days a week, I mean, it's going to be a big cost, but I guess that's something that they're going to look at. I don't think they should have to pay for it. But these are questions that really need some deep thought. Depends on how much it's going to cost. If something's going to cost you $5 a day, it was $1 a day, but it has to be subsidized by the company or whatever. It could be a split between the two. But it's something that really needs to be looked at.
I already taken the bill, so they could continue to take the bill. I'm done with that, right? Because even though people may be working, people still have bills to pay. And then with the present COVID that gone down already, people pocket done start leaking already. So the government had the responsibility, so they could continue to keep the responsibility.
Over in Trinidad, a family has been plunged into mourning and has been rendered homeless by a fire which broke out Monday morning and claimed the lives of 3 children. Alicia Boucher of TV6 News has details from the harrowing scene.
A terrifying description of the early morning scene where tragedy unfolded. As firefighters fought to contain the blaze, the grim reality hit those who could only look on helplessly. Wildfire continued to mercilessly gut the house at Rookery Nook in Maraval. 3 children at that time were unaccounted for among the Burke family. Chief Fire Officer Arnold Bristow says the distress call came in just after 7:30 a.m. and fire appliances responded from the Ryson Road headquarters under the guidance of Assistant Chief Fire Officer Smith.
In attendance were 50 officers, 19 firefighters. When they arrived, the building was well alight.
Bristow says an offensive firefighting strategy was used to gain access to the property, which was a 20 by 15 meter B-class constructed home. However, it was too late.
When they got in, persons were already dead. Sad, we had several people who would have lost their lives.
The deceased children have been identified as 17-year-old Ezekiel Burke, a student of Blantyshire Secondary School, his 6-year-old sister Faith Burke, and 3-year-old brother Caden Burke. CFO Bristow says there are 2 other siblings, 15-year-old Janicia Burke and 13-year-old.
Guyana's Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony has announced that his ministry will continue its nationwide inoculation of people who have already received the first shot of the Sputnik vaccine from Tuesday. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana reports.
A total of 10,000 second-dose shots arrived in the country this morning and will cater for the remaining persons who received the first shot in April and those who got their first shot in May.
We know a lot of persons who took their first dose, and some of them are now becoming eligible for their second dose. And as you would recall, second dose is anytime between 4 weeks to 12 weeks. Initially, we were using the minimum period of that 4 weeks, but then we were advised that we can go to a maximum of 12 weeks. That is what most countries are now using. We have been following that protocol. So those persons, as of last week, as you would recall, we had started giving the second dose to those persons who got their first dose in April.
The vaccines will be distributed to the 10 administrative regions. There are thousands of persons awaiting their second shot of the vaccine to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The health minister today reminded that for those persons who have not received any vaccine as yet, there are still first and second doses of the AstraZeneca and Sinopharm vaccines available, as well as the first dose shots of Sputnik.
We have been giving 3 types of vaccines in Guyana. The AstraZeneca, which we have both doses of. And again, I want to urge people who got their first dose AstraZeneca to come and get their second dose, because we see a lot of people who took their first dose. Their time is due, but they haven't come back yet for their second dose. So we want to encourage those people to do that. Similarly, we have Sinopharm vaccines. We have both doses that are available. And again, those who took their first dose, we want them to come and get their second dose. And if there are persons who want first dose, they can get that as well.
More than 50% of Guyana's adult population has received the first dose of one of the coronavirus vaccines, while less than 30% of the population is fully vaccinated. The government is hoping to get at least 80% of the population fully vaccinated against the virus. The number of new cases of the virus and its death toll has been climbing steadily in recent weeks across Guyana.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the Food Fair from anywhere in the world, and you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now make it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket, and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.